Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Ram,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare
Hare Ram,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare
Hare Ram,
Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Vanchakaipaturvescha कृपा सिंधुवेव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। नमस्ते श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। शिव प्रपात की जय। हरे कृष्णा। मैं हम लोग प्रपात एंड गुरु महाराज। This is Shamara Sita Dasi for Germantown from Germantown, Maryland. Please forgive me for stopping and I welcome all the devotees on the early morning call today. May I know who is there in the call today?
Hare Krishna, this is Sharanagata Devi Dasi. I am from Clarksburg, Maryland. Srila Prabhupada ki
Hare
jai, Guru
Krishna.
Maharaj ki jai.
Hare Krishna, Charanagata Mataji, Dandat Pranam, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Guru Maharaj ki jai. Thank you so much for joining.
Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. This is Nikunja Rasadas from Germantown, Maryland.
Hare Krishna, Nikunjaras Prabhu, Dandat Pranam, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Guru Maharaj ki jai. Thank you so much for joining.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Mata.
Go ahead, Mata.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Matanat Pranam to you and all the devotees who joined today. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Guru Maharaj ki jai. This is Rupini Padma Devi Dasi from Orlando, Florida.
Hare Krishna, Rupini Padma Mataji, Dandat Pranam, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Guru Maharaj ki jai. Thank you so much for joining. Hare Krishna. Anybody else who would like to announce their name? Okay.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam everyone. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, Guru and Gauranga. This is Padmini Radha joining from Gaithersburg, Maryland.
Hare Krishna, Padmini Radha Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Guru Maharaj ki jai. Thank you so much for joining.
Hare Krishna, this is Sharp Das. I'm all the way from Sarnaugati here in Washington, and I'm happy to be with you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Uttama Das Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Sorry, Partha Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Guru Maharaj ki jai. Thank you so much for joining and giving your valuable association.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. This is Adi Govinda Das from Gaithersburg, Maryland.
Hare Krishna, Adi Govinda Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Guru Maharaj ki jai. Thank you so much for joining.
Hare Krishna, Dandat Pranam, Jai Shri Prabhupada. This is Yashodavatsal Das from Rockville, Maryland.
Hare Krishna, Ishwaravatsa Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Guru Maharaj ki jai. Thank you so much for joining. Hare Krishna. Anybody else would like to announce their name? So, okay, so I will give some introduction of Mata, today's speaker. We are so fortunate to have Her Grace Uttama Devidasi Mataji from Sharanagati, Canada. And this is the brief introduction of Mataji and Prabhuji. Parthadas and his wife Uttama Devidasi were married in 1971 and initiated together by Srila Prabhupada in 1973. They joined ISKCON in 1971, but within 3 months they were initiated and they joined temple, and they were dedicated so much by economically and physically and spiritually to Vancouver temple. They spent many years overseeing the Pujari department. Partha as a head Pujari for 20 years and Uttama as head seamstress and dresser. They have facilitated young youth BG Bhagavad Gita reading for decades, among other numerous services. Seeing how unhealthy marriages adversely affect individuals and communities, they decided to train as marital educator. They are two of the founding members of the Grahastha Vision team and have mentored numerous couples and facilitated seminars around the world. Together, they specialize in premarital education. Uttama Dasi has also Gottman Level 2 clinical couples training and is graduate of the developmental model of couples theory training. They are co-author along with the other GVT members of heart and soul connection, a devotional guide to marriage, service, and love. We have their website also. So, Mataji, Hare Krishna, please welcome to the call, and let us chant 3 times Hari Bol for Mataji for giving her valuable time. Hari Bol, Hari Bol,
Hari Bol,
Hari
Hari
Bol,
Bol, Hari Bol.
So please take over the call now, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. I'll just confirm that you're hearing me all right.
Yes, Mataji.
All right. So thank you so much for inviting me to your wonderful Sangha here. Today we are reading from the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagvatam, first chapter, 20th verse. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat Nastapareshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhagavati Naishtaki. One of the reasons that we all assemble here to hear Srimad Bhagavatam is the hopes that it's going to relieve all the inauspiciousness in our heart. So it's so nice to be in this Sangha to read Srimad Bhagavatam together. Text 20. Oops. Katam tasmin bhagavati durvagrahaya damani pasyatam sarvalokanam layamiya turanjasa. Srila Prabhupada's translation and purport. How was it possible for Shishupal and Dantavakra, in the presence of many exalted persons, to enter very easily into the body of Krishna, whose nature is difficult to attain? Purport. Shishupal and Dantavakra were formerly Jai and Vijay, the doorkeepers of Vaikuntha. Merging into the body of Krishna was not their final destination. For some time they remained merged, and later they received the liberations of Sarupya and Salokya, living on the same planet of the Lord and in the same bodily form. The Shastras give evidence that if one blasphemes the Supreme Lord, his punishment is to remain in hellish life for many millions of years, more than one suffers by killing many brahmanas. Shishupal, however, instead of entering hellish life, immediately and very easily received Sayuja Mukti. That such a privilege had been offered to Shishupal was not merely a story. Everyone saw it happen. There was no scarcity of evidence. How did it happen? Maharaj Yudhisthira was very much surprised. Om Jnana Timirandasya Janandana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangam Langayate Girim Yatkritam Maham Vande Shri Gurum Dinatarini Panchakalpatrivastya Kripasindavevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So this chapter, Maharaj Parikshit is asking some questions. And here he's describing his surprise, and also the answer is given by recalling a discussion that Maharaj Yudhisthira was involved in. So here we're seeing that Yudhisthira is surprised, and Maharaj Parikshit, he's very surprised, because Shastras state that the normal situation for a person such as Shishupal was not, the normal position wasn't what happened to Shishupal. Prabhupada was describing in the purport how normally a person would go to hell for millions and millions of births for such a heinous action of blaspheming the Supreme Lord. So they were all just very much astonished. And it's describing here that it's not just a story. People actually visually saw that when Shishupal's head was severed, his soul exited the body, and people could see it traveling and merging into the body of Krishna. So it was a confirmed fact. And they're wondering, how is it possible that he's going to be liberated to the Brahmajyoti? And not only that, because sometimes when a demon's killed, they get the liberation of impersonal liberation. So here it's seen that not only did they get that, but they also got the liberation of living on the same planet of the Lord and having the same bodily form as the Lord. So how is this possible? Once Harisari describes that he asked Srila Prabhupada a similar question. How is it that Duryodhana was so much favored by Lord Balaram? Balaram's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. How is it that he was friends with Duryodhana? Sometimes it's described that Duryodhana was offense personified. And his character was even predicted at the time of his birth. And it was so bad that Vidura advised his brother, Dhritarashtra, I think you should just kill this child now. He's going to just cause so much harm. But of course, parents are attached and it wasn't possible. So later on, Duryodhana, even though he performed so many offenses to the devotees of the Lord, it was seen that still Balaram was somehow friends with him. And so Harisari asked Prabhupada, how is this possible? Was he a famous personality in the past? That it's just a pastime? And Srila Prabhupada answered, yes. He's just here performing some service for the pastimes of the Lord. So we see here that it's also the circumstance of Shishupal and his brother Dantavakra. It's a special pastime engineered by Krishna. So as Sarvadrik was mentioning a few years ago, that Krishna likes to come to this material world. And there's this one lecture, I remember it also, where Prabhupada said that Krishna, he wants to keep his body fit. I thought that was endearing. So Krishna wants to have fighting pastimes, but it's not possible in the spiritual world to have any fights with anyone because there's so much love and devotion that it can't happen. So when Krishna wants to have some fighting pastimes, he has to come to this material world. However, even in the material world, Krishna never interacts with matter. So he has to interact with personalities who are his devotees. And so therefore he needs some devotees to take the role of demons. It's just a part in a play, a drama, where they can take this role as demons and have this fighting interaction with him. We also understand that one of Krishna's qualities is that he's expert. And Nectar Devotion describes the definition of expert is that one can fulfill many purposes with one action. So here we see that when Jai and Vijay went to visit Lord Narayan in Vaikuntha, they passed through all the 7 gates and they got just to the 7th gate in Vaikuntha. And there, these doorkeepers, Jai and Vijay, they barred them entrance. They said, you're just some, small boys. You're not even dressed properly. It's kind of like this is a serious situation here in Vaikuntha. We can't just have some little kids running around, making noise. So the 4 Kumaras were absolutely astonished that there could be this discrepancy, that how could they come this far if they weren't purified. And could the doorkeepers see that? And so they cursed them. They said, you don't have the right mentality. You're not seeing that we're devotees of the Lord. How is it that you can't see that? Some discrepancy here. If you think that we're in the modes, then you must be in the modes. And you can't be in the modes of material nature in the spiritual world. So therefore, you're fit to go to the material world. And we curse you to go there. Now, instantly, Lord Narayan appeared on the scene because he cares about his devotees. And he didn't want his dear gatekeepers, Jai and Vijay, to have to live perpetually or for a long, long time in the material world. So he came there and he spoke so nicely to the 4 Kumaras. He spoke in such a way that the 4 Kumaras were just dumbstruck. They couldn't fathom the beauty of the Lord, number one. And also they realized that they had made a mistake by cursing some devotees of the Lord. And they thought, oh my, maybe we might go to hell. But somehow or other, they were just so enamored and fascinated by seeing the beauty of the Lord that they thought, we've seen you. It doesn't matter if we go to hell. We've committed some mistake and we take responsibility for that. But somehow or other, my dear Lord, wherever I might go, just please let us glorify you. We're so satisfied that we've just seen you. That's good enough. Whatever you desire for us, that's fine. So the Lord, he praised their nice words and he even apologized. Can you imagine the Lord's apologizing to the 4 Kumaras for the actions of his servants? He said, if my servants act in some way that's offensive to my devotees, I consider that an offense by myself personally. He was very upset that some servants of his could offend Brahmanas. He said, I'm always ready to give full protection to my devotees. And he went on to give this wonderful statement. He said, my devotees are so dear to me that if I think that even I have caused them some harm, I'm just ready to lop off my arm. My devotees are that dear to me. He said, everyone under my protection, every one of my devotees is under my protection. And anyone who is also my servant, they must diligently protect brahmanas, cows, women, and children. And if they don't do this, they are going to be subjected to punishment by Yamaraj. He said, it's so important that devotees are protected. So the Lord explained to the 4 Kumaras that these servants of mine, they've made a transgression to you, not understanding my mind. And that is unfortunate. Somehow or other, though, they are my servants. And I would appreciate, my dear 4 Kumaras, if you, as a favor to me, could be sure that they come back very soon. And so the 4 Kumaras, they offered them the choice. Would you like to take the punishment of 7 births in the material world as my devotees, or 3 births as a demon? And immediately the gatekeepers, Jai and Vijay, they said, oh, we'll take the demon births because then we can come back sooner. So Krishna was happy about that because he wanted them to come back very soon. So we could see that the Lord's always anxious that the devotees come back to Vaikuntha as soon as possible. So there's a purport where Srila Prabhupada said it's assumed that there's no possibility of misunderstanding between the Lord and his devotees. But sometimes there's discrepancies or disruptions between one devotee and another. And when that happens, one has to suffer some consequences, although that suffering is temporary. So we see that Jai and Vijay, they chose these 3 births as demons. And so it's understood that in this pastime, Shishupal, he's one of the 3 births that Jai and Vijay had decided to take or agreed to take. So we also have been in the material world for a long time. And it seems for us like we're conditioned since time immemorial. It seems like a long, long time. And once Srila Prabhupada described that when we do go back to the spiritual world, it will seem just like a bad dream, just like maybe 3 births, like Jai and Vijay. So we also want to get back as quickly as possible. And how are we going to do that? So we need to revive somehow or other this remembrance of our original relationship with Krishna, because that's our goal, that we also want to get back as soon as possible. And in order to do that, we need to qualify ourselves. And when we're trying to qualify ourselves by engaging in the devotional service of the Lord, sometimes there's quality checks. It's like something's manufactured, it goes through quality checks. So once some devotees asked Srila Prabhupada, will there be tests before we go back to Godhead, to see if we're qualified? And Srila Prabhupada said, yes, there will be some tests. And one devotee said, it seems like the more advanced you get, the more severe the tests are. And Srila Prabhupada said, no, once one comes to the post of a recognized devotee, then Krishna leaves you alone. So the devotees asked him, what does passing the test look like? And Srila Prabhupada answered that passing the test means sticking to the path of devotional service despite all obstacles. So we see that we all have so many obstacles in our path of progressing in devotional service. Sometimes material desires drag us here and there. And sometimes we have the test of how are we going to get along with the other devotees? And I see that that's one of the hardest tests that devotees have sometimes, is how to keep good relationships with devotees and to not make offenses. Because we understand that our inability to follow the process of devotional service is largely due to making offenses to other devotees. So when this happens, then we lose our ability to sincerely chant and follow the process. So there's a saying that says a good defense, the best defense is a good offense. So if we want to keep good relationships with devotees and prevent making offenses, then we need to develop a nice service attitude towards devotees, to verbally appreciate the services that they do and to glorify them. And thus we can associate with the devotees with the proper attitude. Srila Prabhupada also said that the tests is whether we can stick to our 16 rounds. And we see that it's those rounds that enable us to have the proper consciousness to perform our devotional service and to associate nicely with the devotees. Now we know that there is going to be obstacles. There's a very nice lecture Prabhupada gave in New York in '67. And I will read a little excerpt from it here. He said, suppose you are in this Krishna consciousness society. Now you cannot expect that all the members of the society will be first-class men. How can we expect? We are collecting members of the society from all classes of men. So there may be a man in goodness, a man in passion, and a man in the ignorance. But if you think, oh, this man is not good, that man's not good. No. You should be tolerant. You haven't got any connection with this or that man. You are connected with the philosophy, with the process, with the progress of life. You are all connected. Just like some example, suppose you're on a ship. You do not find all men to your choice. There may be different kinds of men. But what is it to you? You have to cross the Atlantic Ocean. Patiently cross. Just sit down tightly on the ship and take advantage of the opportunity. That is your business. So some interesting points here. It was interesting that Prabhupada said, sometimes we don't have any connection with this or that person, except for that we're connected with the philosophy. So I've noticed that after joining Krishna Conscious Movement, I have the association of such a broad spectrum of people that I never would have come in contact with in my ordinary dealings, because we tend to associate with persons of similar personality to ourselves. That's who we're attracted to. So we have our friends and our relatives, and we have similar natures and personalities, and that's why we associate together. And of course, sometimes we have the association of work comrades, and maybe we don't always choose them, but again, we have some similarity that we have the same type of engagement, service that we're performing. So it's the same thing in Krishna consciousness. The devotees that we associate are very broad in their personalities and natures. And somehow or other, we're together because of the philosophy, not necessarily because we have similar natures and we get along well with each other's personality. So Srila Prabhupada said we have to understand that there's going to be a variety, and to appreciate that we are all here because we're engaged in devotional service, and to appreciate the service of each other. So there's a really nice letter Srila Prabhupada once sent to Brahmananda. He said that this attitude, it has to be maintained amongst the God brothers, that will elevate us more and more to the top of devotional service. This is the Vaikuntha attitude. In Vaikuntha, factually, there is no fault in anyone, but there is another type of competition. The competition is that one devotee thinks of other devotees, how nicely they are serving the Lord. In the material world, the attitude is that everyone likes to think that I am doing better than others. Excuse me. This is material conception. In the spiritual sky, it is just the opposite. Everyone thinks that my contemporary devotees are doing better than me. So therefore, we are trained to address God brothers as Prabhu, which means master. This means we shall try to find out always the serving side of our God brothers. Sometimes there are misgivings, but that we should try to overlook. So Srila Prabhupada here is explaining the attitude we have to have in the association of devotees, that we appreciate their serving nature and their serving qualities and the nice service that they are performing for the Lord and the other devotees. And Srila Prabhupada describes that is the Vaikuntha attitude. We see that Krishna, he looks for the good qualities in his devotees. He doesn't worry about our negative qualities because he deputes that to Maya. Maya is the one that sees our negative qualities and maybe finds the ones that she can grab onto to distract us, to see if we can be distracted from the process of devotional service, to make sure also that we're fit for going back to Godhead. So once Vishnu John, he asked Srila Prabhupada, he said, in this material world, there's so many things pulling at us. How are we supposed to withstand this? And Srila Prabhupada said that in the material world, it's like a tug of war. Maya is trying to pull us back into material activities. Prabhupada said that, but we should pull back. He said, and the pulling back is our chanting. We have to keep pulling and keep pulling. And then Prabhupada chuckles as he said, and you will win. So we want to win this war against Maya. We have to keep pulling the other way. So this verse today, it's questioning, how can it happen that these attendants from Vaikuntha, that these seemingly conditioned souls, they get this wonderful liberation? And we see that, just as Prabhupada said, it's a pastime of the Lord, and it has to be by the approval of the Supreme Lord. We see that even in Vaikuntha, when Jai and Vijay were being cursed, it actually had the approval of the Supreme Lord. Lord Narayan, he explained to Jai and Vijay that this departure from Vaikuntha was actually foretold by Lakshmi Devi, the goddess of fortune. Once Lakshmi Devi, she had left, he said she had left my abode, and when she returned, you stopped her at the gate while I was sleeping. And so she foretold that they also may not be able to stay here for all the time. So I don't know the exact scenario that Lakshmi Devi foretold, but Narayan was just explaining that it was, it's my desire, and it was even foretold by Lakshmi Devi. So he advised Jai and Vijay that by dint of bhakti yoga in anger, they could be delivered from the curses of the Brahmanas. So he told them how you can come back. So it's the same for us. We come back by this process of bhakti yoga. So we understand that one can practice bhakti yoga in many rasas. So there's 12 rasas. There's the 5 primary rasas, and then there's the 7 secondary rasas. So the secondary rasas are laughter, compassion, dread, anger, chivalry, astonishment, and ghastliness. And they're a little bit harder to perfect because they have to be done specifically in relationship with Krishna. Just having anger isn't a rasa. The primary rasas, they constitute direct devotional service. And although the 7 secondary rasas are indirect, they're also counted as bhakti yoga if they're used in the service of the Lord. So in other words, bhakti yoga is all inclusive. If somehow or other we can become attached to the Supreme Lord, then we can become engaged in devotional service. So we see that the gopis, they're attracted to Krishna by Madhurya Ras. Similarly, Kamsa, he was attached in bhakti yoga by dint of fear of his death. So bhakti yoga is so powerful that even if you're becoming an enemy of the Lord, if you always thinking of him, then you can quickly be delivered. So our basic principle in bhakti yoga is to always think of the Supreme Lord. That's why in Bhagavad Gita it says, Man mana bhava mad bhakta, just always think of me. So it doesn't matter in which way one thinks of the Lord. Somehow or other, the thought of the personality of Godhead is the basic principle. So we know that while all the thoughts can purify us, we really do want to be thinking of the Lord favorably. Mostly the devotees, they get this Sayuja liberation where they just merge into the Brahma Jyoti. We hope for something more because there we can't serve the Lord. We actually don't want to accept that kind of liberation for thinking of Krishna. We want to think of the Lord favorably in devotional service so that we can go back and engage in more service for the Supreme Lord. So we see here that Jai and Vijay, they were able to get that direct service with the Lord in Vaikuntha. And so they were fortunate, not like ordinary demons. So we also want to diligently perform our sadhana bhakti so that we can develop more and more attraction for the Supreme Lord, so that we are able to think of him always and desire more and more to just want to be with him because of that increased attraction that we have. So this is a very nice verse that we had today, how we can somehow or other choose the right method and the right path of going back home, back to God. So I will leave it open for questions. And if anyone would like to ask anything or make a comment, answer, add something, some realizations you have, you're most welcome.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Madana Pranam to you. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Guru Maharaj ki jai. So this is Rupini Padma Devi Dasi from Orlando, Florida.
Hare
So
Krishna.
wonderful class, Mataji. Just enjoyed every bit of the class. And I wanted to ask you a question like, about the Jai Vijay, taking 3 birth instead of more than that. So that shows their eagerness, to be with the Lord, the earlier the better, like that. So, but it is sometimes very hard to understand that, how in the material, how we hear these kathas about, their like going against Krishna, and then, so if we think of it like in Krishna consciousness, we talk about the fact that, like we should, in the sense we should associate, we should spread this movement to others. But here we hear that Krishna is only associating with his devotees. He's not, even while doing the, he wants to fight and everything, it has to be with devotees only, like a drama kind of thing going on, but not anyone outside like that. So, so these two things contradict my mind, and I'm really sorry for this very silly kind of question, but I don't know if you understand my context. Like,
I do.
why, if Krishna would associate with more people, other than only his devotees, then they would also become devotees, right?
Correct. That's why Krishna decided to incarnate as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That even though one is not qualified, somehow or other, he will give mercy. And that mercy is largely given through his empowerment of the holy name. So it's really by the association, it's really by the potency of the holy name that Krishna allows us to associate with him. So we know if we're chanting the holy name, we are directly associating with the Supreme Lord. And that is the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We don't have to have that qualification. So Krishna is just so kind that he comes as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and we can get the mercy. So no worries. We have the blessings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And by those blessings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we will one day be qualified to associate directly with Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. And to add to the another part of the question of what you answered, like I had heard, coming from like a, so to say, Hindu Indian background, I heard when I was growing up that, to do Krishna bhakti is very tough. It's not easy to do Krishna bhakti. So it's good to do bhakti with, Lord Shiva and others who are easily pleased. So in context to this, when I heard this, I'm sure there was some relevance, about this having been told by my parents or my grandparents. So, and we also hear that, sometimes we hear that Radha Krishna deities, are like it's very their worship is very elaborate, and it's not. I mean, it's easy to worship like Lord Jagannath or Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and like deities like that. So, like coming to that point, is this also thought connected to that why Lord Chaitanya came, because it becomes easy for us to worship him through his holy name?
Yes. So again, it's the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And, when you hear that, bhakti is very hard, I think what the real understanding is it is the highest, and you have to endeavor more to get to that high position of, pure devotional service. Not that we have to become intimidated by it. Also, because bhakti yoga and devotional service is so potent that any touch with it gives you some sort of a taste where you can carry on. So the process itself empowers you. And I don't think that's not sometimes understood, because you're thinking that I don't have the endeavor, so I don't have the quality, so therefore I should just serve Lord Shiva or this or that because he's easily pleased because I'm not that qualified. But the process of bhakti yoga and the mercy of the guru gives us the qualifications where we can endeavor more and more. So that again is the, mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And yes, sometimes it's easier to worship Lord Jagannath or Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at home because we don't have all the hours in which we can perform perhaps the best devotional service for Radha and Krishna. It's not to say that one can't have Radha Krishna deities in their homes. However, when we are starting the process of devotional service, it's a good place to start with worshiping Gaura and Lord Jagannath. I see that Priyanka has a question. So was that a good enough answer for you, Prema?
Yes,
Rupini Padma, or would you like to add?
Thank you so much, Mataji, for the answer. And I have one more thing to add, like one more thing to just like kind of comment and something I wanted on that. Like, you and your Prabhuji is so fortunate to meet Srila Prabhupada, and you became their disciple. But Srila Prabhupada has also come to some people's life in the form of not the body, but in the form of seeing, like just hearing his classes, his books. So it is so amazing that whenever I hear that they're Srila Prabhupada's disciples, I feel that for some of us who are in the age where Srila Prabhupada is not there, we're not there to see him, but we also got, like they say that Prabhupada is there in his books. He's still there with us. So it's so amazing that through video and through some YouTube also Prabhupada has come to us, and it's like you have something to comment on this also, like how Prabhupada is so great. I just want to hear glorification of Prabhupada through you, because you're being the direct disciple. So we are like grand disciples.
Yes, that's why we sometimes say Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, right? Because he's so merciful that his potency wasn't limited to just when he's here. That by his books, like Srila Prabhupada often said, if you want to know me, read my books. So we can know Prabhupada and have a relationship with him by reading his books. And also we see that Prabhupada just has so much potency that he's able to purify us with any contact we have with him by hearing about him, by reading his books, etc., just like you say. So that's the wonderful potency of Srila Prabhupada. I think my husband would like to add a little something here. Maybe,
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you so much. I'll give chance to others to ask. And we are very, very fortunate to have you here, see you. And, I mean, I can have my camera on for a minute. I'm right here.
Oh, thank you. Nice to see you too. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Thank you,
Hare
Mataji. Thank you so much. I'm blessed to have you in our life through Amarasika Mataji and Nikunj Ras Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Would you like to comment?
Srila Prabhupada once commented that he said, "I will live forever in my books."
Mm-hmm. Yes. Mm-hmm.
And I think for that, Mataji, we should read books, because if Prabhupada is in the books, you know how we have this enthusiasm when we are in the beginning coming into one by one, we're hearing Prabhupada's lectures and we want to hear all the lectures, but that thing fades away with time. So if you want to reconnect again back with this thing, just like Prabhuji said, we have to connect with the books, read more books. Yeah, thank you, Hare Krishna.
For sure. Indradumna Swami, he used to write these little booklets about when he traveled and he'd run into devotees who had certain experiences. And I don't remember any of them, but he has quite a few stories where devotees somehow or other dreamt of Prabhupada or came in contact with this amazing stories about how people even today were getting some like instructions from Prabhupada in different various ways. So we see that he's still available. Priyanka, did you want to make a comment?
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Thank you for such a lovely class. I had two things. I had a realization to share, and I also had a question. So the realization was pertaining to, as newbies in bhakti. I remember there was a situation where I was advised by my Shiksha Guru to limit my association with other devotees. And I had a very difficult time understanding that concept, because in my mind, as you were talking about judgments, and when you were talking about how we all are in the process of following the same philosophy and practicing the same philosophy and even worshipping the same deity. So I think when I was given that advice, I had struggled very much in trying to understand why am I given this instruction. It was not a very hard and fast instruction, like do not associate. The instruction was not to cut out the association, but limit the association. And the explanation given to me was, everyone has a different mood. And when you associate consistently with a particular namhatta, for example, they have a certain mood, you would go somewhere else, you would like few things in that sangha, and so when I was given the whole explanation of it, I was still struggling, because in my mind I was like, how can you go shopping around? Because I was given an analogy of, you can go shopping around, and because there would be some quality that you would like and admire in a certain person, whereas you would like and admire a certain quality in another person. And I was eventually told that what happens is eventually you fall down because you end up committing offenses because you appreciate a certain thing, and then what you do not appreciate, you tend to judge and you create Vaishnava Prad. And in my mind, I was like, no, that would never happen to me. And, that's not a real thing. Like, why would I judge a devotee? But I've had experiences where I have had devotees also who have been coming from a different mood, tell me certain things, and I felt bad. So over the years, I've gotten more appreciative of that advice that I was given. And I think my initial reaction when I was given that advice was also I was judging my Shiksha Guru, because I was in my mind, I was like, why am I given this advice? Because we all are supposed to see all the devotees with the same equal vision. So why is that? But so I just wanted to share this because I have realized over the period that, in India, they say that um, the older generation normally always, whenever they're giving a teaching to their child, they always says that I've seen more summers and winters than you. So I really was able to appreciate that, because I realized that by not getting too carried away by someone's association, I was trying to even protect myself and protect myself from committing a Vaishnava Prad. So I just wanted to share this realization and probably ask you, is that a right understanding, Mataji?
In devotional service, it doesn't mean that we don't discern between which association helps us to advance more. And so, just like Prabhupada said, our society is very broad, and there's going to be many, many different types of devotees. And we want to respect them all. And we want to choose wisely who we're going to intimately associate with, because that's going to help us develop the mentality that we want to develop. So respect needs to be given for all devotees. And sometimes we have like boundaries on how much and how close we associate with different devotees, depending on their mood. So it's not that we judge them, it's just maybe not the direction that we want to go in. And so we associate with the devotees that we want to go in the, same direction with. So like that. It's not an offense to choose wisely who you associate with. In fact, it's a recommendation. What is an offense is if we are very negative and judgmental, like you say. So devotees are all on the path. And so I think there's that example when the devotees would come for Rath Yatra and somebody asked Lord Chaitanya, what's the definition of devotee? And the first year he answered, anyone who chants Hare Krishna is a devotee and they must be respected. And then the next year he asked again. And I don't remember that there was 2 more answers. He asked 3 times. I forget exactly the second one. And then the third time they asked, it's like you should associate with the Uttama Bhakti, the person who is, purely engaged in devotional service. That is or what is a devotee? And so he said that the devotee is the person who's, 100% purely dedicated. So there's different, grades of devotees. We're all devotees, but which one do we want to become? And so we choose the association of people that are more advanced than us so that we can, get up up to where we want to be. So that's called wisdom.
Thank you, Mataji. I guess in conjunction to that, I have another question. So do you have any practical tips on how do you not take association but give association when dealing with non-devotees? Because we all have we all have to work, we all have professional lives, we constantly meet with people who have completely different mindsets. And so how do you, I guess it ties back to what you were talking about, Prabhupada, and how Maya Devi is so strong. So any practical tips on what could we do to associate with non-devotees but not take their association, but rather give them the association?
Mhm. So giving means, we're being friendly, we're being kind, we're being helpful, we're, sharing maybe in different vocabulary. Some of the things we learned in devotional service, we maybe don't lay it on thick, with these preachy words. We choose how to wisely share the philosophy and values of Krishna consciousness with others. And we have a boundary in our mind of which values don't fit with my values of devotional service. And we can recognize that that's their value, and it's not a choice that I want to make by adopting their values. So sometimes we may be in physical proximity with someone, but we're not accepting the value set that they have, because they're doing what they're doing for a different reason. They're doing it for material advancement, to get money, to get prestige, to get whatever. And we're there to make some income so that we can support our process of bhakti yoga. We can give to the temple, we can support our families, we can, worship the deity. We're there for a totally different reason. So we have a different purpose in being there, and our values are different. So it's a matter of sticking with your values and not adopting their values. Because when you adopt their values, then you start to change your consciousness and your mindset. So it doesn't mean that you can't, be in the same room with them. It doesn't mean you're not kind. It doesn't even mean you don't go to the Christmas party. You might, and you might, use the opportunity to bring a preparation, and, maybe you don't eat there because, oh, I'm on a certain diet, I can't eat, or whatever. You don't offend them. So just by seeing how you can a devotee can remain equipoised and firm in their devotional values, that is huge preaching. Even if it's not obvious to them, they still pick up your qualities in the devotion, and it makes them more able to perhaps take up devotional service when they encounter it later on in this life or another life.
Thank you so much, Mataji. That was really helpful. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. This is Sharanagata. A very
Hare
wonderful
Krishna.
flow, Mataji. Hare Hare. As you were, saying so many points, it was answering so many of my questions, because when the class started, Duryodhan came into my mind too, that because I never knew any background of him, and I thought why? And then this question that basically Yudhishthir Maharaj was posing, I was also having about the Duryodhan, but I thought it is a Dvesha Vritti, maybe it should not be like, devotees should not be saying that, like if anyone is getting mercy, but why it is coming to my mind. And I think eventually you answered that too. So many so many things. It was very wonderful listening. So I have one question, that what Priyanka Mataji was saying, maybe it is and Rukmini Mataji, because both were like talking about few things that I also had it in mind. um, so you are saying that it is devotees here, uh, even my counselor also was saying me that keep away from the devotees, or not really non-devotees are definitely no, that is what everywhere it is said, but you can't avoid them. But also with the devotees you should be very careful, you should pick them wisely. But because of, I guess, to all the all the newcomers, this has been told by their teachers. I see that, like, when I go to temple or any devotee's place, the relations are very formal. Devotees are just smiling, giving little bit of association, but there is no heart-to-heart connection. It is very difficult to find that, because I guess everyone is kind of looking and filtering out, and same thing is going on in everyone's mind. So how, I mean, instead of that, when I was in the Asat Sangha, I will say, before coming to Krishna consciousness, everyone will just, give themselves 100% when they see each other. They are there in your bad times and good times, and especially I experienced that during, my times, what I'm going through right now. So how do, as a devotee, I don't want that, me doing that, like, kind of that filtering process is, you do that, but you should have that heart to heart connection. How can we develop that? I mean, because eventually they are all devotees and they started this journey, so they are going to reach, that place, in the dham one day. I mean, today they are little bit behind, some are little bit ahead, but I don't want to reject them or ignore them or keep them formal relationship. This is something I don't want to do it. I don't know if it is going to harm my spiritual life, but this is something came into, I mean, always it's there in my mind. Can you please comment on this, Mataji?
When we're in Sangha together with others, like if you go to some home program or some Sangha, or we're at the temple hearing and chanting, we can give ourselves freely, because we need to be personal. The only time you need to draw the lines is if sometimes somebody is just too fault finding, and then maybe you don't hang out with them too much outside of Sangha. It doesn't mean you can't hang out with them in a general Sangha. And in a general Sangha, you should treat them very kindly and like you treat your friends. And sometimes people are fault finding because they feel that people don't respect them or like them, and it's kind of like a front, to because they feel hurt that they're not maybe respected or have close friends with the devotees. So it's not that I think we have to be very liberal in how we deal with devotees and have very heart-to-heart connections. And then we will see as we go along which devotees we naturally can have deeper and deeper connections with. I think it's important, though, that we don't have superficial connections with devotees unless we really understand that, this person's just maybe too inimical right now to do more than say Hare Krishna and, make an excuse and go somewhere else. That's rare. Most of the time we should have heartfelt, heart-to-heart connections with the devotees that we see. And we can do that by asking deeper questions, on what they appreciate about the philosophy or what they appreciate about something, and share our appreciations and hear their appreciations. Then even if they are maybe more neophyte, we're associating on the level of the high appreciations. So the association is uplifting and good. And we see that so many people have wonderful realizations, even when they're new devotees. And it really is important that when we have Sangha, that the Sangha feels open and welcome and warm, because otherwise people won't stick to the process of devotional service. We have to treat all the devotees like that. Otherwise they'll go, why am I here? Because we're wired for having relationships and connections. And that's why we want that connection with Krishna. And we have to have it with the association with other devotees. So, keep up that attitude. It's really important, because people don't stick to devotional service if they don't feel those warm connections from others when they come in association with devotees. It's really important.
that's a wonderful thing, that wonderful advice of asking them what they appreciate about Krishna and Krishna consciousness. Thank you, Mataji. Thank you so much.
All right. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Sadhu Sangha ki jai, Vaishnava Sangha ki jai.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Such a beautiful and wonderful class. And I was waiting for if anybody has any question or comment. Otherwise, we can end up the call here.
I just wanted to thank you, Mataji, for giving us association through you of both Prabhuji and Mataji. Really thankful to you. And
Yes.
We have become cleansed and purified and feeling so good, that after a long time we have someone, of course we have Srila Prabhupada disciples coming, but having more and more is more thrilling.
Yes,
Thank you,
yes, Mataji. That's all Srila Prabhupada mercy, and Mataji and Prabhuji, Partha Prabhu, they are so nice and so kind. They always, whenever we ask question, they very nicely answer the questions. And very nice. They both are very nice, Mataji.
Thank you all for your warm
Thank you,
Sangha.
Mataji. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Pancha Kalpatarubhyascha Krupas. Do you have any question, Annapurna Mataji?
No, thank you. Just Hare Krishna.
Pancha
Pancha
Kalpatarubhyascha
Kalpatarubhyascha
Krupasindhuvaivacha
Patitanam
Patitanam
Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo
Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.
Koti Vaishnavebhyo.
Jai. Her Grace Uttama Mataji ki Jai. Thank you so much, Mataji. Hare
Srila
Krishna.
Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Dandavat pranam to all the devotees. Hare Krishna.
Dandavat pranam.